There are a lot of characters in Squid Game who are far from loved, but some are so annoying or evil that they surpass dislike and enter a new level entirely. These are the most hated characters. Let's get into it. Minsu. Minsu might not be the loudest or most physically threatening contestant, but don't let that fool you. His actions during Season 2 left viewers straight up disgusted. When we first met him, Minsu was barely a blip on the radar. Quiet, shy, and looking harmless, he kept to himself and didn't make waves. But underneath that meek exterior was someone way more cowardly and calculating. Everything changed during the Mingle game, where players had to form groups under intense pressure. Up until then, Sami, player 380, had been Minsu's protector, sticking with him from day one and making sure he was all right. Sami wasn't some strategic mastermind or fighter, just a genuinely decent person looking out for someone weaker. So when Minsu spotted a chance to ditch Sami for Thanos' stronger crew, he jumped ship without even looking back. This wasn't just a survival move, it was driven by cowardice since someone stronger stepped in and threatened him. Sami had always protected him, and Minsu tossed her aside like yesterday's trash. Most viewers saw it for what it was, pure chicken behavior, and the worst part, it wasn't even smart. Minsu didn't gain anything meaningful and just ended up as another faceless follower in Thanos' crew. His betrayal wasn't strategic, it was just sad and totally unnecessary, which makes him one of the most annoying characters in the show. Yongick. Next up is someone who managed to pack every annoying trait into one human package. Yongick. If you were designing the absolute worst teammate for Squid Game, you'd basically end up with making this guy. Not only did he abandon his pregnant ex, Kim Jin-hee, before the games even started, but he refused to own up to it once they were trapped together in the arena. But what really cemented his spot on everyone's hate list was his crazy backstory. Yongick was behind a crypto scam that financially ruined tons of people, many of whom ended up in the game because of the debts they piled up after falling for his scheme. One of those victims was Thanos, who confronted him directly in Season 2. Instead of showing a shred of remorse, Yongick just brushed it off and acted like he was the real victim of life's many turns. That level of cold indifference had viewers raging. He didn't just avoid responsibility, he completely disconnected himself from all the pain he caused and acted like he was just as much of a victim. Every moment he spent on screen felt like watching someone who had perfected the art of selfishness. He played with zero alliances, zero loyalty, and zero conscience. Park Young-sik. Few Squid Game betrayals hit as hard as what Park Young-sik pulled. What made his story uniquely painful was that his betrayal wasn't aimed at some random ally or competitor. It was directed at his own mother. In one of Season 2's most gut-wrenching scenes, Young-sik and his mom, both competing as players, talk about exiting the game. She believes they have enough cash and, like any parent would, just wants to escape alive with her son. They seemingly agree to vote for stopping the games when given the chance. Then comes the twist that had everyone's jaws on the floor. Young-sik flips his vote at the last second. He chooses to stay in the games, prioritizing his debt over his mother's safety and wishes. The look of absolute heartbreak on her face said everything. Viewers felt every ounce of that betrayal. It wasn't just a game decision, it was a moment that shattered trust and turned him into one of the season's most despised players. Fans might have understood if he had no alternative, but instead of being honest with his mom about how deep his financial hole really was, he straight up lied to her face. He let her believe they were on the same page, then threw her under the bus. That kind of cowardice, combined with his already irritating personality type, makes him a standout source of anger for fans. Mi-nyeo. Mi-nyeo from Season 1 is the one character that everyone has an opinion about. Some found her entertaining and over the top, while many others found her completely unbearable. From the moment she appeared, chaos followed. Loud, unpredictable, and manipulative, Mi-nyeo was like a human tornado that never stopped spinning and clinging to those around her. She constantly jumped between alliances, flirted with whoever seemed strongest, and inserted herself into every single situation possible. It wasn't strategy, it was just toxic attention-seeking on steroids. Her infamous hookup with Deok-soo in the bathroom stall raised plenty of eyebrows, but what came after was even crazier. When he later betrayed her, she swore revenge and actually delivered by dragging him to his death during the Glass Bridge Challenge. That moment almost made everyone like her again. Almost. But for most viewers, her earlier behavior, such as the screaming, scheming, threatening, and constant need to be the center of attention, was too much to forgive. Sure, she might have been fun to watch in small doses, but across the whole season, she got on everyone's nerves. In a game where being subtle and forming smart alliances is key, this lady stood out for all the wrong reasons. Mi-nyeo. The kooky shaman, whose real name was Mi-nyeo, rolled into Season 2 with one of the strangest vibes in the entire show. From her first appearance, she was basically a walking dark cloud that loomed over everybody else. She had this intimidating but annoying presence, always mumbling about death, karma, and destiny. And if you were hoping she'd chill out eventually, nope, not happening. Instead, things got dialed to 11. Her constant predictions about who would die next creeped everyone out, and her policy of only helping others when there was something in it for her made her toxic to be around and unreliable with trust. Her complete meltdown during the team-based six-legged race was when everyone finally had enough. She lost it, repeatedly screaming, "I'm going to die," while panicking and freezing mid-challenge. The same woman who claimed to have all this spiritual insight completely fell apart at the seams, showing she was nothing but a con woman. Another player literally had to slap some sense into her to get her moving again, That moment not only made the crazy shaman look foolish in front of everyone, but it also exposed how fake her whole mystical act really was. She wasn't some wise fortune teller, she was just unstable and insecure. Viewers weren't scared of her at this point. They were just tired of her whole act. Her negativity infected every scene, making her one of the most exhausting characters to watch. Namu. Namu's entire existence in Season 2 was basically a masterclass in having zero backbone. From day one, he attached himself to Thanos like a human backpack and never let go. He echoed everything his newfound leader said, copied his every move, and even used the same drugs just to function in the game. Fans started calling him Thanos' shadow, and definitely not as a compliment. He wasn't just a loyal sidekick. He was a straight-up parasite clinging for life. And while Thanos had this chaotic charm that made his antics somewhat tolerable, Namu brought absolutely nothing to the table. Even worse, he bullied weaker players using his influence, including Minsu, who had already betrayed Mi for the team at this point. It seemed like he got off on picking on those below him, something that didn't sit right with anyone watching. His complete dependence on others made it impossible to see him as anything but pathetic and unable to stand on his own 2 feet. There was no growth, no story arc, no redemption, just a leech following whoever was making the most noise. By the time things got violent in the game, viewers were just counting down to his inevitable elimination. The frontman. When people discuss villains in Squid Game, they're usually torn between hating them and being fascinated by them. The Big Daddy frontman definitely falls into both categories. As the masked devil pulling all the strings behind the scenes, he was mysterious, cold, and brutally efficient in causing death. But his big reveal as Junho's brother added that human element that made some viewers pause. Then Season 2 happened and changed everything. Disguising himself as Player 001, Front Daddy joined the games to spy on Jihan and learn more about the rebellion brewing inside the dormitory walls. For a while, fans actually vibed with this new version of him. He seemed clever, curious, even protective at times, but it was all an act. Once his true identity came out again, the mask went back on, both literally and emotionally. He took back control without a second thought, showing zero remorse for the deaths, the lies, or the manipulation. People died because of his choices and actions, and he felt absolutely nothing as a result. It's one thing to run the games from a distance. It's another to pretend you're one of the victims. That level of deception made him not just feared, but truly despised by fans. Jung. Greedy, loud, and stubborn as a mule, Jung earned his reputation as Squid Game's most annoying voice of pure selfishness. He was the player who always screamed, "One more game!" Every single time the option to vote out appeared, there he was, shouting everyone down and pushing for more games, no matter how many bodies were piling up, all for the sake of some money. What made him even more insufferable was his complete disregard for others. If someone collapsed, he'd step over them. If someone begged for help, he'd keep walking. He never once considered splitting the prize money or helping weaker players strategize. His thinking was simple. As long as the money kept growing, the body count was worth it, no matter how high it reached. He wasn't particularly smart or resourceful either. He didn't even bother forming proper alliances. He just bullied everyone into continuing the game so he could possibly win more cash, and happened to gain a group of warriors who thought similarly, that the deaths of others were worth their pockets getting fatter. The fact that his greed kept extending everyone's suffering made viewers blame him for prolonging the nightmare. He became the poster child for everything wrong with the player's mentality, and fans just wanted him gone already. Cho Sang-woo. No surprise here, there can only be one choice at the top. The undisputed champion of hate in Squid Game is none other than Cho Sang-woo. He started out as someone we could all feel for, a once successful businessman who had fallen on hard times. People were rooting for him, at least until that infamous marble game changed everything. When Sang-woo paired up with Ali, it seemed like a solid team. Ali looked up to him, trusted him completely, and even called him Jung. But Sang-woo betrayed that trust in the most heartless and cruel way possible. He manipulated Ali into giving up his marbles and abandoned him to die, fully aware of what he was doing, giving up his humanity for a chance to win that money and reclaim his good name. What made it so much worse was Ali's genuine nature. He wasn't naive, he was kind and trusted people's purity, something Sang-woo showed him up to that point. And Sang-woo weaponized that kindness against him. It was easily the most soul-crushing betrayal in the entire series. No amount of tears, regret, or apologies could erase what he did. Fans were absolutely livid. And even though Sang-woo eventually met his end, his actions haunted the show right until the final credits rolled. He wasn't some cartoon villain twirling his mustache. He was terrifyingly real, driven by fear, pride, and desperation. That's what made him so believable. And that's exactly what made him the most hated character of all time. So this has been the most hated character in Squid Game. Let us know in the comments if you agree with Outpick, and if you want to see more Squid Game content and theories, click the video on screen now.